One of Fox News' biggest stars is actually no longer with Fox News, and that is Megyn Kelly, whose last appearance is actually set for this Friday. It was announced earlier today that she would be moving to NBC News, and she still had a contract that was supposed to run out into the summer, and so the question was, how long will she stay? Not very long. She is gone very soon. Now, that doesn't mean that she'll be on NBC News immediately. They might just keep her contract but not let her on the air on Fox News. But it's a pretty big move because she is one of the biggest faces on Fox News, although we're going to attempt to flesh out what she actually represents and why NBC News perhaps should have been a little bit more hesitant to associate themselves with her, but we'll see. So the NBC News chairman offered her a triple role in which she will host her own daytime news and discussion program, anchor an in-depth Sunday night news show, and take regular part in the network's special political programming and other big event coverage. I find that last part to be completely unsurprising and perhaps the least offensive part, considering people like Jeffrey Lord are routinely allowed on election night coverage anyway. To give you an idea of the battle over Megyn Kelly, Fox News' parent company, 21st Century Fox, offered her $20 million a year to stay after her current contract expires this year. Jesus. She was already collecting $15 million a year. Many times, I'm sure, the operating budget of our entire network.
So,
for just her.
So NBC was allegedly clear with her about how they couldn't afford to pay her more than $20,000 a year. So
$20 million a year.
I'm sorry, $20 million a year. It's hard to even say it because it's just
she's below the federal poverty level.
It's just such a huge amount of money. But I don't know what they're paying, what they're going to end up paying her, and everyone's very tight-lipped about it. She says that she opted for this move and this transition because it would grant her some more time with her 3 small kids, which is an understandable reason to want to do it. But what I think is more...
Doing 3 roles at the same time seems to potentially undercut that a little bit. But I'm sure she wants to spend time with her family.
Special events don't happen that often. It's not a regular thing.
That's true.
Right? And then, okay, I think the daytime talk show is probably going to take up the most time.
But it's probably a lot better than doing a show at 9 p.m. where you can't see your kids at night.
Exactly.
Fine. Okay, that's fine.
But I don't even care about all that. What I think is interesting is just like this paradigm shift that we're seeing with mainstream media, and at a time when I think the electorate's trust in mainstream media is at an all-time low, I think it's an interesting move to hire people like Greta Van Susteren at MSNBC or Megyn Kelly at NBC. And things are changing so quickly because I remember, I don't know, 10 years ago, for instance, it was thought that if you were on Fox News as a political pundit or a host who shared opinion, you weren't going to get hired anywhere else. You were done for. There was no way anyone would hire you. And now you're a hot commodity if you're coming out of Fox News, especially if you're someone like Megyn Kelly or possibly Bill O'Reilly, although he seems very loyal to Fox.
Yeah. Well, and the reason for that is because CNN and MSNBC don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're stupid, and they're learning all the wrong lessons from this election. I understand. Donald Trump won, and so now all the networks are like scrambling, like, oh my God, we got to get Trump-friendly journalists, and we got to get a whole bunch of reporters who love Donald Trump and commentators and all that. Dude, half the country voted in the election. Less than half of those voted for Donald Trump. That means that on a great day, 1/4 of the country cared enough about this guy to actually go out and cast a vote in his favor. It ain't that big of a market, and I don't think they're going to be watching MSNBC just because you bring over a couple people who theoretically like him. But anyway, the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because Megyn Kelly, look, I hate the lack of nuance that I'm seeing in a lot of the media recently. Megyn Kelly is not the absolute devil. You're allowed to think some positive and some negative things about a person. And look, Megyn Kelly is not Sean Hannity, and Megyn Kelly is not Bill O'Reilly. But unfortunately, some people take that too far and think because she's not as batshit crazy as other people at Fox, well, then she is a reputable journalist like any other. Now, she's more like those journalists, but she's not the same. And so, thankfully, we had producer J.R. Jackson put together a little montage of just some of the things that she has said that perhaps you should bear in mind when evaluating how mainstream she really should be.
First of all, pepper spray. That just burns your eyes, right?
Right. I mean, it's like a derivative of actual pepper. It's a food product, essentially. But a lot of experts are looking at that and saying, is that the real deal? Has it been diluted because...
Yeah, they should have more of a reaction.
Yeah,
he certainly did not have control of her. It looked kind of bad the way he was attempting to get her on the ground.
And you find, I mean, I'm sure he didn't know she was 14 at the time. Maybe he did. We can't assume it. But the girl was no saint either. He had told her to leave, and she continued to linger. Just because it makes you feel uncomfortable doesn't mean it has to change. You know, I mean, Jesus was a white man too. But you know, it's like he was a historical figure. I mean, that's a verifiable fact, as is Santa. I just want the kids watching to know that. Yes. But my point is, how do you just revise it, you know, in the middle of the legacy of the story and change Santa from white to black? Has anyone ever hurt you emotionally? You know, for a long time in this country, that was assumed that you wouldn't devote your life to protecting a community and put your life on the line every day if you weren't intending to protect. And yet, folks have taken a few incidents, many of which have turned out to be completely falsely represented, and run with the narrative we just heard. You've been divorced twice.
Yes.
Did you learn something about relationships, about love, about yourself? I mean, the question is whether those comments do real damage, not just to morale among Christians about what their own president thinks of them, but to the enemy.
You know, it's a modern day form of fighting back. I mean, it really is. But
you going to stop that as president?
Well, I'm going to stop it about you now because I think I like our relationship right now, so I'm certainly not going to do it with you. Yeah, I think
now
so.
You have my cell phone number. That is actually much more efficient.
You know, sometimes in the morning when I make my scrambled eggs, I like to take a little pepper spray and put that
food product,
you know, on my omelet, you know?
Yeah, I had forgotten about the interview she did with Donald Trump. And so, look, she feuded with him, which was to her credit. And then she largely rolled over when she had the opportunity to actually stick it to him. And there you saw, I mean, this is just a little sampling. Like, the Santa stuff is funny and we laugh about it. But you saw the stuff about the police brutality. And there's, like, I mean, I can't read it for you, but we just got quote after quote after quote where she shows a deference to authority that should be horrifying for any true journalist, where she just assumes that every cop is telling the truth. The cops all want to do the right thing. None of them have ever been driven by any racial animus whatsoever. And then her views on race show that she evaluates the value of a political protest based on the color of the skin of the people doing it. She evaluates how much evidence is required to believe what someone's account of what happened with the police is, largely based on the color of the skin of the people that happened. I'm not saying that she's a member of the KKK, but she clearly sees people of different racial groups entirely differently, and it comes through in her actual reporting. She is racially inflammatory and openly questions people based on their race when they say that they've been victimized by the police in other incidents.
Well, look, there's, I guess, an upside to her moving to NBC and kind of switching what her role is as a broadcast personality, because she doesn't like the day-to-day political combat that you deal with when you're on cable news. And so with a daytime talk show, it's going to be different. I mean, the type of content that she covers is going to be different. So I guess that's good. I'm not going to say that she's just going to cover fluff, but I'm sure there's going to be more fluff infused in whatever rundown they create.
You know, fluff is a food product.
Marshmallow fluff. I've had that.
Great.
Delicious.
But yeah, it will be different.
It'll be different. So I guess that's a little bit of an upside. Daytime television used to be a big moneymaker. I don't know if that's still the case.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. In any event, like, look, we're focusing on this because you have to understand all the different facets of a person. It doesn't mean that she's the worst person in media, but it is scary to see, as perhaps a result of the Donald Trump winning thing, that people that are really questionable on some of the most important topics, that should be the most important topics to a journalist, their record can simply be whitewashed because they don't look as crazy as some other people.
Become a member of the Young Turks.
I think it's weird.
No, it's not. Afterwards, you'll think,
you know, I'm like a smart person.
TUITnetwork.com/join.